Hi, this is my video review for Psi-Punk. At first glance, Psi-Punk seems like a cyberpunk game, but it's actually more of a psionic punk or psychic punk game, because psychic powers are a central part of the entire theme and setting of this game. Let me talk about the PDF first. It's an excellent PDF. It has some really cool illustrations. You can easily navigate through the entire book thanks to the virtual table of contents and the hyperlinks. It also teaches you about the setting and the rules in a very streamlined way. The PDF also comes with a fillable PDF character sheet, so you can make all the necessary adjustments and changes right in your computer screen or in your tablet. And it also comes with a short story that was made in collaboration with many of the members of the RPGgeek.com forums. And I think that's pretty cool because that way you can generate many ideas for the campaign setting and get a good feel of the game thanks to if you read this short story. Well, let me talk about the system this game uses. This system uses the fudge dice system. The fudge dice are basically six-sided dice, but that represent pluses, minuses, and zeros. You can buy these types of dice in most hobby stores, but you can also use six-sided dice to replace them, counting the 1 and 2 as a minus, the 3 and 4 as a 0, and the 5 and 6 as a plus. And when you make a roll, let's say you roll 4 fudge dice, the pluses and minuses cancel each other out. And that's the entire engine for the game. You make skill rolls and other types of checks and tests rolling fudge dice. So for example, if your character is very skilled at, let's say, hand-to-hand combat, and let's say he's a good hand-to-hand combatant, you make a roll, and if you get a lot of pluses, you may end up with a superb level of skill in a particular test. But if you roll a lot of minuses, of course you're going to perform in a very mediocre or poor way. So understanding the system of minuses and pluses is central for the entire game, and it's a very simple system. You just have to make your roll and check the trait ladder and see how your character performed. And in opposed checks, of course, the one who will have an advantage will be the character with more pluses than the opponent. Character creation in this game is pretty good, but to understand exactly what type of characters you need to create, let me talk about the setting. The world of cyberpunk is a world of radical political and social changes, where in a not so distant future, when suddenly the human race realizes that governments and corporations have been employing psychics, training, and maybe even taking captives people with psychic abilities and using them for their own plans and agendas. So suddenly there are all these extremist groups that fear the people with psychic powers, and people with psychic abilities also strike back, trying to reach a balance or find their place in society. And it all comes to a precarious standstill or a stop, where there is a balance between the level of power or talking about political or social power that corporations, the government, and the psychic factions have. Because this is not only about corporations, which in this game corporations are very powerful as many governments, but it's also about different factions and how the psychic tolerant government is just standing at the tip of an edge or a precipice, just waiting to be tumbled down by some political or corporate maneuver. And so the characters in this setting have a lot of job opportunities, because they can act as mercenaries, as corporate enforcers, as shadow brokers, or as spies, and there are a lot of adventure seeds just waiting to be developed in this game. The characters you can create, well, they give you a selection of archetypes, but they are not forced onto the player. You don't need to feel constrained or I don't know, forced to play a certain kind of character. You can choose from different archetypes and create the character you really want. Maybe you want to create a character that has so many psychic implants and sorry, cybernetic implants that he resembles more like a Frankenstein monster. But you could also play as a character that is a very powerful psionic character, but is also very skilled in the hacking of computers or maybe reprogramming entire systems, even with the power of his mind. But I'll get to that in a moment. The character creation, it all rolls around, or maybe is based upon the notion that there are cybernetic implants and psionic powers at your disposal. But that doesn't mean you can't play as a normal human. That's an interesting choice too, because Magicorp, one of the corporations in the game, design magic devices that allow you to reproduce the effects or powers that a natural psychic would have. So if a character is equipped with certain Magicorp devices, he could be using telekinesis or maybe pyrokinesis, moving objects and controlling flame at will. The equipments and cybernetics, of course, they come with their own costs and their limitations, but that allows you to further customize the character you want to play. And when it comes to psionics and magic, this system is very well developed in this game, because you have all sorts of cool powers: precognition, the capability to move objects, manipulate light, ice, fire, perform astral travels, out of body travel. And this also touches on some interesting part of the game. This game functions on a multi-dimensional level, because you don't only have to be aware, you have to be aware of the physical plane, but also of the cyberspace, which you can go into through certain devices or maybe using psionic powers, and also the astral plane. So your character has a lot of choices to approach different situations. Maybe if you're a psychic hacker, maybe you would like to travel to the astral plane and attack someone from there. But you also have to be aware of the dangers in that plane, because there are otherworldly beings like fairies or trolls or psychic predators that are just waiting to take advantage of your character that enters that astral plane. But you could also enter the cyberspace through maybe as an electronic device, or maybe just with the power of your mind projecting your conscience into that space. So the game carries out the different missions and adventures in the physical and cyberspace and astral planes, and that's pretty cool. You also get a lot of a good system of fighting and resolving conflict. Wounds in this game are not handled like using hit points. They are more like the Savage Worlds type of way, where you have different levels of wounds. In this game, you start getting wounded, and with all those wounds, you start getting weaker. So it's a very gritty system where your character starts bleeding out, and you start performing less and less effectively because of it. And you can also suffer mental wounds because of psionic attacks, or maybe through the use of different devices or drugs. And the cool thing about this game too is that it has a good system to generate adventure seeds. It's based on a chart. You start placing your finger in a certain seed, let's say corporal intrigue or whatever you want, and you roll the fudge dice, and according to the number of pluses and minuses you get, you start moving around the chart, generating all these different concepts for campaigns or adventures. There are also a good selection of enemies. Of course, you get the enemies you would expect from a cyberpunk campaign or psionic punk, like mobsters or maybe corporate enforcers, government agents. But also you also have to face these enemies on different planes of existence, like the trolls, these predators that roam the astral plane. They are actually humans who lost their lives and their bodies during an astral travel, and they are just waiting to prey on an unsuspecting victim, maybe robbing that person of their bodies when they are performing astral travel. And of course you will also have to fight against certain programs in cyberspace, and all of that is solved using the fudge dice. And you have a good selection of weapons and armor to carry out these conflicts and combat. And I like it because the combat in this game is gritty, but because of the different tactics you may employ, there are some optional rules for a bit more depth. You don't feel like you could die at any second. You just need to play intelligently and measure the level of risk that's involved. The game also comes with a sample adventure, brain.net. It's a good adventure because, like I always say, a good introductory adventure is that which presents the players with a lot of what the setting or the game has to offer without making them feel overwhelmed. And so, what I think of this game has a lot of potential to give an interesting spin to your average cyberpunk campaign, because this is cyberpunk with a very strong psychic twist or feel. You don't feel like you're going to run out of ideas for the next adventure or scenario, because you have all these interesting factions and conflicts just waiting to happen, and you can create your character just the way you want it, based on the different archetypes that they give you, and you don't feel like you have to be forced to play a certain type of class or a particular role. You could play like a melee or fire weapons or firearms based group, and everybody would have an important task to play, and you don't need to have a certain type of character. Let's say, oh no, our group needs a psychic character because we're not going to be able to travel to the astral plane or perform certain mental attacks. You can reproduce these kinds of things with Magic Corp's magic systems and devices. I really can't find a strong negative point to this type of game. Maybe some people will not like the setting, but that's really irrelevant. Something that's also pretty cool in this game is when you generate your character, you have these three basic attributes, and from those three basic attributes come sub attributes that you can attach to different skills. But that doesn't necessarily mean that a certain skill has to be linked to a certain attribute. For example, let's say two characters specialize in hand-to-hand combat, maybe kung fu. One character using the tiger style would be basing his strength on that particular type of attacks, and the other character who is using, let's say he uses the dragon style, he will be all about agility and dexterity. So you can link the attribute you want to a particular skill or method of combat, and that could also apply to different sciences and technological expertise, methods, and all kinds of things that you can think of. I recommend this game, especially if you have played a lot of other cyberpunk games, because this psionic punk game gives you enough versatility and flexibility to carry out adventures on a multi-level scale, and you don't exclude characters when you are performing hacking or out-of-body traveling, because all the characters participate at the same time, thanks to the Magic Corp's magic devices and apparatus. I will also recommend this game if you are looking for a system that's easy to understand. The fudge system may seem a bit complicated when somebody mentions the plus and minus system, but it's actually very simple, very streamlined. So it's a beginner-friendly game, but with enough depth to satisfy a hardcore player. Well, thanks for watching my review. If you have any comments, please write them and I will read them. See you later.